fine, thank you. And how are you doing today?
Oh, and, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous. I'm always glad to talk about this because the right relationship is everything. So we have to
Hmm.
be very deliberate about building relationships that is going to nurture our souls. And the way to do that, one of the ways to do that, it's not the only way, is to make sure that we know ourselves, as we've been talking about, and knowing our type is very important. So one of the big questions I
Exactly.
want to ask right now is, Genevieve, when you were, doing the scoping for your husband, what what did you think about when you thought of the whole idea of your perfect match?
Well, this is a very good question, and I can say that actually it should be the first question that we really
Mhm.
have to ask ourselves because it may seem like very simple, but in fact, it's good to have this pause and to think about what is my ideal man. And I think that most of the time we don't really take the time to think about that. We
Mm.
discover maybe along our relationship and people we meet that yes, I like this. But I think that well, maybe with experience you can get a better insight about what is the ideal man that I really think I can be happy with. So I think that
I'm just
this
gonna be
first.
real. I'm gonna be real. When I was thinking about hooking up, the thing that was in my mind, he's got to be really dark. He's gotta be tall. He's gotta be like a mandingo. This is what I had in mind. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that
I didn't think about nothing about no personality type per se. I didn't think about my personality, that's for sure. I just
sure.
figured, when I see him, I'll know. It'll just click. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I'll just see him, I'll know. Don't you meet people like this all the time?
Well, it's I think it's depend on maybe the age, the experience, and for sure when you are, in the trainees, your the physical description is the most important. Your ideal man is
It's not
just
necessarily the 20s.
yeah,
It's not necessarily the 20s. Sometimes
yeah,
I don't agree that it's necessarily the 20s. And if anybody over there in the audience that thinks that's only in the 20s that you think like that, please put a one in the chat. But I don't think so. Um, but some of the things that we tend to think about, but Genevieve, she's a saint, so she thinks more deeply. She likes to think very. She's a very deep thinker. This much I know because
yeah, yeah,
my friend.
yeah.
And some of the things that drive our choices include what?
Um,
The physical. What else?
yeah, physical and I would say
Well,
behavior,
that's yes.
yeah, and for some people, intellectual. It has
Mm.
to
You
stay
gotta be
with
able
the
to think right.
intellectual. Yeah, you got to be someone who can have, this kind of very smart conversation. Some people are seduced by this thing. I'm among those people. For some other
You're
one,
seduced by good conversation. You're seduced
yeah,
by good conversation.
yeah, I like the deep
Is that what you
conversation.
said?
Yeah. And then for some people, it's emotional. They like to see you, very, very touched by what they said and all things, they want to see that people are sensitive about something. Some
Mm.
other finance. Actually, it's a very,
You have to have some money.
yeah,
Sprinkle,
uh,
sprinkle.
among, among the primary criteria is mean that you should not be a beggar. So,
Huh?
but other is faith, the faith devotion. I mean that as today we are talking to, the faithful women. I think that when you are Christian, I guess that one of your main criteria is to look for a faithful man, but
Hmm.
the question is tonight that uh, just looking for a man who is faithful is no longer enough regarding the number of divorce in the church and among Christians.
Mm. It's a good
So
point. The divorce in the church is competing with the divorces in the world. I mean, like they're neck and neck. So clearly, there's some missing link somewhere, and I think
yeah,
part of that is why we're having this conversation. We're not saying we have all the answers here tonight because that would be very arrogant of us, but
hmm
I do believe that knowing our personality type contributes to the conversation in addition to uh, understanding the love languages. And we talked about the
Mhm.
love languages in the past, and we're going to review them right now really quickly because I think they kind of play on each other. Knowing the love languages of each partner, of each other, and understanding your personality type as well as the other person's personality type. And here's a review of the love languages: words
Exactly.
of affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
spoken words, written cards, letters. Are you into that, Genevieve? Encouraging words, compliments. I see we have Name and Shaw in the chat. Please feel free to interact. Um, that's good for me, but it's not necessarily. I love words. I'm really a words person. If you use the wrong word, harsh
Mm-hmm.
words, I get really turned off. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. Quality time is another one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Doing errands, doing trips together, all these things. Quiet places, no interruptions. I'm kind of like a mixture of the words of information and the quiet time and the
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one conversation. You could be a mixture of this, right, Genevieve?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that when you know when you read this five love language, that's very important to know what really resonate to you. What are the between the five four language? What are the things that you're most sensitive to? Because this will drive your choice. You know.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So is it words of
Actually.
information? Is it quality time? Is it receiving gifts? Is it acts of service? Is it physical touch? Which one
Yeah.
rings your bell, so to speak?
Yeah, because when we ask to someone, "What's your perfect match in relationship?" Sometimes some people will take some time and say, but knowing this 5 point that really summarize a lot of things in relationship can help you, you know, be specific about what really is important for you, you know. And yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that we can continue to see the three other one. So we talk about quality time, and then we have receiving gift, act of
Hmm.
service, and physical touch. So according to the description of Chapman here, we have as quality time, someone who is sensitive to having you know taking trips, doing things together, like the one-on-one time alone, having conversation just about ourselves. So I think that this can indicate what can be your criteria when you're looking for someone, you know?
It's true, but the truth is, when I was dating, I didn't really have this education, so I
Yeah.
didn't have the awareness, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that I was. I didn't know that I didn't know. That's the
Mm-hmm.
really big deal. When you don't know
Exactly.
that you don't know, you don't have the awareness, and you don't have the education, and you have no model around you who can tell you or show you um, an example of
Mm-hmm.
what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So, what do you do? For me, what I'm doing right now as I go, I am taking the responsibility, the personal responsibility to learn myself and
Mhm.
learn my husband. And I've been married now for almost 18 years, and it's a continuous education. And I think
Yep.
the trouble
Mhm.
starts when you start to get comfortable in the relationship, when you know
Mhm.
you think you're on cruise control, you don't read the books, you don't ask the questions, you don't
Mhm.
get therapy if you need it. I mean,
Mhm.
all those things, you have to be very proactive. If you, that's only if you want your relationship to work.
To
But
work.
there's no way we can assume that it's just going to work just because we like each other or we love each other or we
Mhm.
have good feelings.
Mhm.
Because I can tell you straight up, the feelings wear off.
Yeah.
And
No.
the novelty wears off. And then you have to just look at the character. So, yes, the love languages are important. And equally important is this whole thing that we are focused on tonight, which is the personality type. And
Mhm.
Coach Genevieve, she's certified in the Maxwell Disc method. And I want you to talk about that for a little bit, Coach Genevieve. Go ahead.
Yes, and as you said, it's Coach Angela, it's very important to know first what is important for you, because most of the time when we are single, we are looking for our matches, but as you said, we are not enough educated to even have this pause with ourselves and ask to ourselves what really matters for me in a relationship. But with this education of five language, you may discover then why these choices are yours, because
Mhm.
it depends on who you are. You know, when you said, for example, I'm very sensitive to quality time. Why?
Mhm.
Maybe it is because you like smart conversation. You like maybe um, having this feedback with your partner. You know, you want to know if your partner has this. If I can say it like this, maybe a little bit negative, but have the level. You know, to
Want to make sure
to
they're on the level. So that's not
exactly
negative.
to your to
Do we
your
see eye to eye? Do we understand each other? Are we emotionally compatible? There's nothing wrong with
exactly,
that. It's not
exactly.
negative.
If not, these kind of things, if you neglect it, what will happen is that yes, you will get used in the relationship, and maybe one of the spouse will be very bored, and the other one will maybe think that, well, he's calm, so everything is okay, but in fact there is no happiness. And knowing yourself, will help you um, discover your what is important for you, your strength, what really attracts you, what you are sensitive to, and it
Mhm.
will help you discover in a more deep way why this love language are important for you.
Mm.
It will help you discover it in a very more deep way, because just say that I'm sensitive to act of service. It's a trait. It's one of your character trait. Okay, and this disc assessment, the disc helps you discover your personality type. Who are you really?
So
What
tell
are the
me something.
Mhm.
If I'm dominant,
Yeah.
how does the love language of the fact that I like words of affirmation, how do they play off each other? Do they play off each other? Say
You
I took this test and I discovered I'm a dominant personality. What does that mean to be dominant? Let's look at what that means first. What does it mean to have a dominant personality?
Okay, so the dominant personality are the task oriented, result. They are result driven. There are
Mm-hmm.
people who like to go to the point. They are impatient. They are really stressed by challenges. They are decisive, and they are action takers. Generally, this is the general trait of character of the dominant style. So each type, each personality generally are blended with the other type of the disc. So as just a reminder, disc is an acronym of the four personality type. D is the dominant, I for influencing, S for steady, and C for consensus. And each type of personality has, a dominant characteristic. So you may be
Okay.
a blended of three or two personality, but if your dominant is a D, you will be generally someone who will be thrived by, you thrive in challenge, and you are really result oriented. You're someone who like to go to the point. You like the smart conversation. You are result driven, you know, and
Okay. So
mhm,
I learn I'm dominant. I'm task oriented. I don't give me any circular conversations. Get straight to the point. I am result driven.
mhm,
And that's all great. When you first meet the person, you go, oh, he's a go getter. He's this. He'll
mhm,
take care of
exactly.
things. He will, make sure he leads the relationship. All these things are very positive things. And
Exactly.
then you hook up and you're going together. And then he brings that same thing that you admired in, before in his job, which is really like, wow, this guy has really got it. I got a good one. But
Mm-hmm.
then he brings that personality into his interaction with you, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to navigate that. You admire it in one arena, but in another arena, you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he turns me off. Like, what is that? Like, why is he acting like this? But it's the same thing that you attracted you over here.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make the distinction? How do we manage that? How do we navigate that? I think one of the ways to do it is to learn your love language and
Mm-hmm.
his love language, and for you to
Yep.
both be able to communicate that. Because I don't think you can't then you know, dismantle his personality and start criticizing him because he's dominant or a
Exactly.
go-getter and all these things. It's just now
Sure.
it's time for communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
recognize that you're dominant and I really admire those things, and that's what attracted me to you. And this is what I like. I like those things, but I also like this. And that conversation has to be like, it has to be had. And sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
don't, because we're not aware of the personality types, we
Yeah.
don't even know that that's what the problem is. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with the guy all of
Exactly.
a sudden, that you don't understand how to communicate with him in this different arena,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. Mm. So what you said, Angela, is very important. But you said something just before that that we really have to bear in our mind. Relationship
Mm-hmm.
is really something important that we need to be educated in, and we have to be ready to invest to, to make this relationship work. I think it especially when you are married or when you feel that this is my perfect match. I think that just like you
Mm-hmm.
said it, you have to be intentional in the things that you have to do to make it work. And today, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for all those who are connected or for those who will see the webinar later to know that these are tools, powerful tools that can really, really help in a relationship. So,
We have a question from someone in the audience. He says, on the
mhm,
very first date,
mhm.
on the very first date, which love language do girls prefer the most? Well, let me ask you. This question here is very interesting because it sounds like you're getting ready to suit up, to put on the
Uh-huh.
love language that you think will attract her, and then later on you can't live up to the love language. Okay, so each woman is different. It's not.
Exactly.
Wouldn't you agree, Coach Genevieve? Each
Yeah, sure.
woman is different. For her, it's acts of service. For me, it's soft words, quality words, words of affirmation, nothing harsh. It's quality time.
Mhm.
So she loves gifts. Genevieve loves gifts. I'm really not big into gifts like that. I mean, my husband met me, and I was buying bags on the street, from the African guys, $15, $20
Mhm.
bags. And he
Mhm.
was like, "Why are you buying these bags?" he couldn't wrap his head around it. The way
Yeah.
you look, you should be buying these bags on this. To me, it was no big deal. Just buy a bag and keep it moving. But then we got
Mhm.
married, and he started buying me bags for $1,500, and I'm like, I would never spend $1,500 on no bag. You see? So that doesn't mean as
Mhm.
much to me. To the next girl, though, that's probably a big deal. But I would be just as fine with a bag from the African guy on the sidewalk. Those street
Mhm.
vendors. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to answer your question, an anonymous attendee, he's not disclosing his name. There's no love language that girls prefer the most. Each girl
Exactly.
is customized. You have to learn her. Just like my husband had to learn me. He
Yep.
knows now that while I appreciate the red bottoms and all this stuff, I can easily just not have them either, and I don't care.
You, know-
He says
you know
that.
what, Coach Angela? Let's give her tips to our anonymous attendee. Well, one of the best way to know the preferred love language of your future date is to ask her. It's just to ask her.
Ask her.
Imagine how you can impress this girl when you invite her to the restaurant and then you ask her what are the things that matters for you the most in a relationship, And then you explain
Mm.
to her this five love language. You can just register to our session, and you can be trained in a session to know this better and just make a big point at this first date.
And she's gonna be so impressed because you know about relationships and love
Yeah,
languages. Oh my God, you're
exactly.
gonna win her attention for sure. And
Yeah.
then here's another question. His next question is: does dominant mean that in a relationship you're the one who makes majority of the decisions?
No, no, not at all. So dominant doesn't mean, it's not in a negative way. Okay, dominant is the name for a type of personality that like we explain it. You see in the diagram, you have a type of personality that you have outgoing and reserved, task oriented and people oriented. So the dominant is in the part of the diagram. They are outgoing people, okay? They are task oriented. So
Mm.
that means that they are, in personality type, there are not good and bad personality blended or style. No, there is not good, there is not bad. All the personalities type style are good because they have their strength, they have their own weakness that they have to work on, but they are all people who have, yes, these two parts. So it is not that they have to make all the decision, but they are a type of personality that are more driven by action, by result. Okay, this can be helpful in a relationship where the other one is a little bit a little bit slow to action, very reserved and more people oriented. Having a D partner can help you take action and move forward. So
Yeah,
it's just
actually, my husband is a dominant personality style, and it's been very helpful. We started a business together. Actually, he
exact.
pushed me to start the business, so I started a business, and now the business is doing multiple seven figures.
Yeah,
He just thinks done.
exactly.
uh,
They are
but
generally
yeah. But part of the other part of that I have to be educated and aware of is that because he's like this, I have to watch out for the parts where, that style rubs me the wrong way. And
exact.
I have to remember to myself, oh, but this is the part that I really love about him too. So how do I prepare myself to deal when it comes up in an area that is sensitive to me?
Exactly.
So each of the personality types is what I'm understanding has blind spots, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's why the education is so important. So what's the blind spot for the dominant? Well, we've been on the dominant for a while. Let's talk about the influencing personality
Yes.
type.
For
What's the
example,
blind spot for the influencing personality type? And what does
okay,
that mean to be an influencing type?
okay. The influencing people are the outgoing people and people oriented. So their characteristic is that they are generally friendly, talkative, adaptable, optimistic, and very encouraging. They are the perfect cheerleader, the I
Mm,
personality. They are people oriented. That's mean that they are more interested by being with people, discovering them, and one of their weakness is that they are not really accurate on results and all this stuff because they are more people oriented. And the perfect example is that when a dominant asks you for something, he may come and ask it to you directly, while an influential personality will first ask you, "How are you? How was your day?" You
it's
see,
small talk.
because exactly because they are people oriented. They
Mm,
are the specialists of the relationship. Generally, they are good leaders, just like the dominant. So the
mm.
this is their strength. They are friendly, outgoing, very optimistic, encouraging. That's people who always, push people. So they are good cheerleaders. But
So if
their
the
weakness is
dominant is dating the influencing, right? These are both
Mhm.
the advantages or the traits are all both good. But if you don't know the blind spots, I could see how the dominant would get very irritated by someone who's trying to have small talk when they just want to
Exactly.
get to the point because they're not educated. And that could be a source of conflict in the relationship, all of a sudden you start annoying and getting on each other's nerves because you're like, well,
Mhm.
why can't you just get to the point and give me the answer? And the influencer is like,
Exactly.
why are you so harsh? Why can't you ask
Mhm.
how I'm doing? Why can't you ask how my day was? Why don't you bring me some flowers? Why don't you see? And so that
Exactly.
becomes a source of, and before you know it, your relationship is falling apart. You're moving out. The kids are in two different states. I mean, you name it.
Mhm.
The breakdown starts to happen in the home. And I just want to reiterate the stats that I saw recently that 80% of households are led by single women. And part of
Mhm.
that, I think, is because we're not
Exactly.
educated like this. We don't have the awareness. And the things that attracted us first to the person, we don't get educated on the weaknesses of that personality trait. So it then becomes weaponized, and
Mhm.
we start seeing it as a negative, and that's all we can see, and we develop this contempt
Mhm.
for the very person that we say was the right person. He's the perfect guy or the perfect woman. Because
Mhm.
why? We didn't take the time to get educated. And because I'm talking about this education, I want to bring up the fact that we want to invite you to take the assessment
Mhm.
to determine your personality type. Because if you understand your personality and the girl you meet, Mr. Anonymous, and you understand her personality, you can go into the date and say, oh, well, she's compliant. Oh, okay. And I know I'm influencing, so I know what to do that she would like, and I know what could turn her off. So let me adjust my behavior and learn how to deal with her, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Mr. Anonymous says it's like understanding each other's behavior and the things they like and don't like. Yes, but it takes more than just understanding. You got to study the person. Be committed to studying the person. Too much. We too many times we just kind of have a surface understanding, but we don't study the person.
Exactly.
Would you agree with
Exactly.
that, Coach Genevieve?
Yeah, sure, sure. It's exactly understanding each other. So, and disc assessment is generally called the behavioral analysis because it is exactly the analysis of the behavior. Because relationship is made of good communication, and communication, as John Maxwell, teaches to us in his recent book, is communication is more than words. Communication
More
is
than
barely,
words.
yep, it's more than words, and it's barely sharing who you are. So, as you
Mm,
said, so many conflicts in the relationship in the couple happens because we communicate as we are. And if we know ourselves better, we can communicate properly. You know,
that's
if
so
you,
true. That is more than words. My husband comes home
yep,
and he doesn't give me a kiss. I read into that. Okay, he knows when he
exactly.
comes in, give me a kiss.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
hold my hand in public. That's a big deal. Like behavior, the nonverbal is very important.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
It matters because if he doesn't do it, it becomes an issue.
Yep.
I didn't realize it until I was in a relationship. I said, "Oh, these things are important to me." But it would have been good if I was educated beforehand.
Hmm.
We would have avoided some arguments, you know.
Yeah. And this is
But
this is why it is important to know your blind spot. Because when you
mm,
take the assessment, when you take the DISC assessment, you will discover your blind spot. That means that if I come and I say, well, Angela, you were a very high personality. You need to listen more. It may looks like something else. And this is the problem in the relationship. uh, there are so sometimes judgment between the two spouse or the two partner. But when an external source,
mhm,
give you powerful insight on who you are, it's not the word of someone,
mm,
because actually this result come from your own answer. That means that you reveal to this study, to this analysis, who you are.
right,
Because when those who will take the test will receive the instruction to take the test, and it will encourage you to answer in a one sitting, and really give answer that are really true to you, and you will be just amazed on all the information you can have. And knowing your blind spot can help you improve your communication, because you know that, okay, my disco reserve really say that I have to improve my listening. I don't listen too much. And you know what? That's what my my wife or my husband used to say. So it may be true. I may work on this on my listening. You know, this is the kind of insight that can help, because it's an external opinion. Yeah.
And that's important because that's what we're offering right now. Coach Genevieve, do you have the link to share? Or Jay, do you have the link to share on the screen or in the chat? If you want to take this DISC assessment, please sign up right here and we will certainly reach out to you so that we can get you the assessment that you need to get this very important insight, you know, so that you're not looking back and saying, hindsight is 2020 when the relationship already fall apart. You are doing it proactively. Too much we hear this saying too much. Hindsight is 2020. Well, they're trying to give you insight and foresight. So, in other words, do it before it falls apart. You're getting the education now. You're getting a taste of what the knowledge can do for your relationship. So take advantage of it now. And so we're posting a link and inviting you to complete it. And we will sit down with you after you've completed it to give you a debrief of what your results say and the things that we can coach you through to improve for your relationship. We are both married, and so we have a little something to share. We're not perfect, but we have a little something to share. Uh, and it's very important also to just be willing to take input. And humility is so huge in relationship, wouldn't you say? That's the
Yeah.
spiritual side of things, which is where I want to turn the corner to right now. Because it's one thing to look and say, I'm going to look at the personality type, I'm going to learn the love languages. But the truth of the matter is, for myself, if spiritually I am not connected to God and know that I need a relationship with God, all this other stuff, I mean, they're nice, but they're not going to be the whole pie. They're not
Yeah.
going to be what's going to complete the picture. And yes, there are a lot of people in church who are getting divorced. That's why I'm saying you need the whole, all the different pieces. You need to be educated about personality
That,
types. You need to be educated about the love languages, and you need the foundation of the word. That's the foundation that you build from. You
mm,
know, wouldn't you agree with that, Coach Genevieve? What is your
yeah.
perspective on that?
Yeah, for sure, because we are talking to Christian, and we are between Christian women. And as we
Mm-hmm.
said, um, the Lord is the one who knows man's heart, and really knows it, because he's the author of the man of the heart. So he knows. And as the scripture says, is above all else, guard your heart. So, and I think that
Mm,
the best place, the most the big assurance you can have is to fill your heart with God wisdom, and to be sure that you are guided, because all these things can work. And sometimes, uh, even though it is true, but because you involve God in the process of helping you find this perfect match, maybe it is your heart that God will touch and lead to a profound change.
mm,
And this can be true
exactly.
for someone who may say that, well, I'm looking for the perfect match since so long time. That's a good thing to invest in education. But the power of this relationship with God is that it works in both sides.
And ultimately, Jesus knows all the personality types, right?
Yep.
I mean,
And
God natural gives you the four type: dominant, influencing, steady, and compliant. But I'm sure there's probably more that he doesn't know about. Ultimately, Jesus knows all the personality types, and he knows the mix and match of the personality types that will work together, right? We
sure.
can only do this with our humanistic understanding, but ultimately, the Bible says that before I was created, before I was formed in the womb, you knew me. That's like
Mm-hmm.
such a powerful scripture in Psalm
Exactly.
139. When I was what? When I was created in the depths of when I was formed in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body before
Mm-hmm.
one of my days came to be. God knew it. The hair of my head is numbered. I mean, you can't get any more detail than that.
Mm-hmm.
So take the disassessment test, but I'm telling you, the foundation is what it says here in Jeremiah 17, verse 10. I, the Lord, search the heart and test the mind to
Mm-hmm.
give every man according to his ways and
Exactly.
according to the fruit of his deeds. I mean, no amount of assessment and love language is without the foundation to pull it all together, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So don't dismiss one or the other. Just
Exactly.
understand you need the whole thing.
Yes.
It's like a cake, right? You need all the ingredients. If you don't put enough
Yeah.
flour, you don't put enough butter, all of
Mm,
it. But the foundation is the word.
yeah. It's a good advice not to be over spiritual. And as we said it in the last webinar, and I think that we should maybe, one of these days have this webinar on how God used the personality type. I truly believe that
Oh,
God used the personality type.
absolutely. Because
Yeah.
he created the personalities. He knows all of them, right?
Yep. Yep. And actually, the disco coaching program has
Mm-hmm.
this option to be coached in our personality with the Christian approach, because I really believe, and with the scripture as a proof, that God works with personality type. So if God works with personality type, who are we to not consider it? You know,
Exactly. He created the personality types.
exact for a purpose.
I wasn't even thinking about all that when I was creating this
Yep.
webinar. He's the one who this is his genius, his baby. We
Yep.
are his masterpiece. It's the scripture says, right?
Yep.
We are fearfully and wonderfully made. So he would know that it would be smart of us to learn from him how to navigate personality types. And
Yes.
as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about the scripture in 1 Corinthians 13. He talks about love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is all of that actually supersedes the personality type. Because if we
Mhm.
just choose to love, that is like you'll get the personality types covered.
Mm,
But he's not saying don't get educated, but just understand that he's the foundation. That is such a juicy nugget, I have to say. Just remembering that it's God's word that does the work,
mm.
and we need to be self-aware. If you were to think of something else that somebody else, something else that people needed to know tonight, what would it be, Coach Genevieve, as you are certified in this DISC method by John Maxwell?
Can you please repeat your question?
If there was something else you wanted someone to know, if you had another nugget to give, or if anyone from the audience has another question that they would like to ask, that you would like us to answer at this point as we talk about the different personality types, please
Hmm.
take this time to do that.
Yeah. So I will say that communication is key in
Mm-hmm.
for the success of any kind of relationship. And I think that the disc is uh, is really the tool that can help us improve our communication. And we truly need it, because communication involves so many things. The success or the failure of our relationship. It can be with not only when we are dating or when we are married, but even with our children
Mm-hmm.
outside. Many things that and maybe some people will say, oh no, I know myself and I really don't need this test. But according to me, it would be avoiding, a short-term discomfort, because, well, it's also sometimes a small discomfort to hear. But again, the disc assessment is not to make you feel uncomfortable. It to strengthen
Mm-hmm.
you, to empower you, because it gives you information that maybe you ignore to help you explore your potential. That is the first goal of the DISC assessment. So again,
That's so
it's
important.
worth a yes to really, and it is why, Coach Angela, that we have chosen to work to base our coaching program on the DISC assessment and to make this webinar to help people know this powerful tool. More than 1 million people have taken this DISC in USA with the Maxwell, and more than
Wow.
500 companies and corporate use it systematically to recruit and to promote. So that means that it has, an impact. It helps decision. So if it can help a CEO choose someone to put the right person to the right place, why won't we use it to write our match?
I saw a quote this week. It says, "The price of progress is change." And sometimes
Yeah.
when we're so used to ourselves and we're in our comfort zone and we think we're good,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to pay the price. But the price of progress is change. And the thinking, and something that really impacted me this week, as I was reading John Maxwell's book, Thinking for a Change, he said the life you're living today is because of the thinking you did yesterday.
Yeah.
And the life you live tomorrow
Mm.
is based on the thinking you're doing today. And that really resonates with me as we're talking about this subject of personality types, because if we don't learn to navigate relationships, we will continue to see the fragmentation of relationships that represent broken hearts and broken dreams and broken families, because we refuse to pay the price. Change.
Yeah.
To understand that we have to change our thinking about how we enter relationships, how we navigate relationships, the lens through which we see people, because you're not agreeing with them, how we resolve conflict. A lot of people think that once you have a conflict, it's time to break up. Conflict is normal. And with the personality types, there will be conflict, no matter how great the person is. But conflict just represents an opportunity to grow, is what I've learned. I don't like it. Honestly, I hate conflict, to be honest with you. But it has been my greatest growth area. And another quote I heard is that peace is not the absence of conflict. It's resolving conflict by peaceful means. And that's one of the things that if we integrate these different, things that we learn into the process of, learning about each other in relationships, then we will be more likely to keep relationships healthy. Because, when relationships are broken, it's a very bad taste in our mouth, if we to be honest.
Yeah.
We can say we don't care, or next, or what. We say these things to pretend, but the truth is it leaves a very bad scar. And it affects in so many ways. And today we are focused on the romantic relationship, but we're going to explore work relationships. We're going to explore parental relationships and friendships between women and among women. That's a whole other thing. But this method really does make a difference when you get to know yourself.
Yeah.
It's 9:51. I invite you again to complete the link for the DISC assessment so that we can get back to you and set up some time to talk further. Any last words? I'm going to wrap it up right now. Thank you for joining. Patricia, Naaman, Mr. Anonymous, and we'll go forward from here, but we look forward to any more questions you may have. And remember that the most important thing, when all is said and done, is that our relationship with God must be the priority. Everything else goes on top of that. It's like building a house. If you build it on the sand, the wind is going to come, the waves, the storm. But if it's built on the right foundation, it will stand.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Any last words, Miss Genevieve?
What you said is so true. So we are waiting for for the registration. And we will be happy to read the question
Yes.
and to answer to it. Yep, in the chat.
And this chat tonight speaks to our platform. Eve Speaks. Eve Speaks just represents the rebirth and the birth of your promise, your possibility, and your potential. And we think that knowing yourself is going to feed that effort. So we look forward to hearing from you. Have a good night, and I will talk to you in another episode of Faithful. Maybe next week it will be faithful parenting and struggling. We're going to think about it, but we'll continue the series to continue to explore personality types and how it affects our relationships. Have a good night, and we will talk
Good
to you.
night, everyone. And thanks for
Bye bye.
attending. Bye bye.